Hi everyone, hope y'all are having a great Saturday so far. I wanted to come to you and give you a video just kind of discussing the final assignment that you'll have for the class. You all are working, of course, today. Many of you are working on finishing up the discussion board for the unit, where you post your working thesis and then kind of give some details about what you're really thinking to do for your last essay. Of course, that is due tonight by 11:59. You'll do the initial post, and then you'll do the 2 replies to your classmates. And from there, of course, you'll work into the next assignment, which is in the Dropbox. You'll submit it to the Dropbox where you take into consideration all of my feedback and your classmates' feedback from the discussion board. You revise the thesis, and then you post your 3-source annotated bibliography. And then, of course, there is the final project. So what I want to do is I want to give you some details about that. In good bit of detail, because I've had some questions about the final paper, which of course I promised you all I would do a video kind of discussing it. So that is this video. So let's go into course content. All right, so for our course, of course you all know that your final project discussion is due today. Again, that's your working thesis statement, and you mention, of course, what essay you're working with, kind of what you're thinking about for the School of Criticism. Basically, this discussion board is a dumping ground for you to say, this is what I'm thinking at this moment. And that's really what it's meant to be. And this is a place for your classmates to give you feedback through replies, and it's also a place where I will go through and give you feedback as well. One of the things that you will notice through this last unit is that I'm going to be giving you feedback pretty quickly, because you all are going to, I want you all to be able to utilize that feedback as you're in process with the different assignments that are throughout this unit. So of course, that first discussion board was due tonight on the 21st. So again, not immediately, but coming up before too long. You'll have that final project check-in. That is where you will submit in a Word doc your revised thesis statement, and you will submit along with that the 3-source annotated bibliography. Those 3 sources, those 3 scholarly sources, are the ones you're going to be utilizing throughout the context of your final paper, which brings me to the final paper. So let's go into content. And Unit 5, and the final project. So the purpose of this final project is, there's several different purposes. The biggest one is, this is a place for you to put together everything you've really learned in this course and put it on the road and do something with it. What I like about this assignment is that you are not being asked to come up with a wholly original essay. What you're doing is you are taking one of the previous assignments you've done. It could be from units 2, 3, or 4, which, of course, unit 2 and 3 have been graded long by now. In unit 4, I am actually working on those today, and I'll be working on those tomorrow and the days to come. My plan is to have these back to you as soon as I possibly can. But you're going to be taking those, and you're going to be looking at them through a lens of their particular literary criticism that you studied back in Unit 1. And of course, those are feminist criticism, psychoanalytic. You could look at queer theory. You could look at semiotics. There's different options there. So I do encourage you to go and take a look at that. The idea here is that you don't just take the essay that existed in Unit 2 or Unit 3 or Unit 4 and then just throw some things into it. The idea is that you take the opportunity to improve on the existing essay as it was when you submitted it, using the feedback that I gave you, both from the rubric and, of course, in Turned It In and via video. That's one of the reasons why I'm very intentional with my feedback, is because I want you all to have as much as possible to surround yourself with and have resources around you as you go and look at this previous paper and work to improve it and add the things that you need to add into it. So the idea is that you get to, of course, practice everything you've been doing in this class, the different topics and content we've covered, and put it to use, but also you'll do that through purposeful revision. You're going to revise the essay to include claims, textual evidence that support a thesis that reflects the influence of the chosen school that you're working with. There are a lot of different instructions to consider here. I'm not going to go through all of them individually, but the big thing that I want you to keep in mind is make sure you have a clear thesis statement. Make sure that it is one sentence and that it clearly articulates what your paper is about. And again, that paper needs to be about, again, you're working off of the original paper you wrote, whether it was Unit 2, 3, or 4 that you've chosen, and you're thinking about that paper and thinking about a school of criticism that could connect to it in a really fluid way and creating an argument from that. And then as you're thinking about your body paragraphs, of course, continue to think about the textual details that are within the poem, the short story, the play that you're writing about. Use that text as support, but then you're also going to be bringing in those three academic sources, those three articles, for the most part, that are going to support and have something to say about your argument in your paper, in this revised paper. That's actually one of the reasons why for the check-in assignment that's due on the 21st, you have to provide a three-source annotation, annotated bibliography. You provide the source, provide the annotation, provide the source, provide the annotation, provide the source, provide the annotation. That's honestly one of the reasons why you've been practicing annotations in Unit 2, 3, and 4 to build to get you here. I mentioned several times in the class throughout the semester, everything that we do is scaffolded and builds on itself. This is kind of the culmination of all of that. So as you're thinking about your body paragraphs, and of course, how those body paragraphs and the content connect back to the thesis, think about where you can purposefully integrate those sources. How can you bring those sources and those topics into conversation with what you're doing in the context of your paper? Make sure that you, when you're integrating those quotes, and I've commented this, I think, on pretty much everybody up to this point, make sure you have signal phrases. Make sure you have some kind of lead-in to the quote itself that you're going to be providing to your reader. And then, of course, after the quote, you have to make sure to analyze and explain. You have to have your own explanation and elaboration of the quote, or if you paraphrase material from the three sources. Don't just leave the quotes hanging there. While I, as your reader, will be able to connect the dots and see kind of how things are connected, I shouldn't have to do all of that work. You, as the writer, need to make that clear to me as your reader. Of course, make sure your conclusion summarizes main points and reminds your reader of your thesis. That thesis statement and that argument is constantly going to be pointed to and referred to in the context of your paper. So make sure that's happening. Make sure that you proofread and edit your work. This is really important because, again, this is the culminating assignment for the class. It is worth a decent bit, yes, so that's important to keep in mind, but this is truly an opportunity for you to demonstrate to you what you have learned in this class throughout the semester, and also to be able to demonstrate to me what you've learned and how you've grown as a writer. And I have seen growth from all of you to different degrees. So this is an opportunity for you, really, like I said earlier, take it on the road and go with it and see what you can come up with and see what you can produce. And of course, you'll submit the paper into the final Dropbox. It will be run through Turnitin, and I will go through and read it there. Of course, the criteria will be graded on is here. There is a rubric for this. I will provide that rubric right below this video, so you will have that. There will be no mystery as to how you're graded. Make sure you follow MLA style. This is important. Again, it's just another thing that speaks to following instructions and also speaks to credibility that you can do it correctly. There's a couple of little things here and there. I'm not going to raise a ton of fuss. I haven't throughout the semester, but do make the best attempt you can to follow MLA formatting. And of course, refer to Purdue Online Writing Lab, out at Purdue, for the formatting guidelines and things like that. Now, one last thing I want to mention. Your length requirement is 1,000 to 1,250 words. This is long. The minimum here is longer. The minimum and maximum are longer than what they have been for the Unit 2, 3, and 4. Reason being, one, this is the final assignment. It should be lengthier, but also it is lengthier because you are incorporating that school of criticism more fluidly, and you're incorporating those three sources. So you should be able to, based on everything that this assignment calls for, at least meet that 1,000-word limit. That 1,000-word minimum, and of course up to the 1,250 maximum. If you go over 1,250, that's okay, but the one thing I would caution you there is make sure that you're keeping that argument tight. You're not chasing rabbits in different paragraphs, which everyone does, but I would encourage you to try to shy away from that as much as you possibly can. And of course, keep in mind too, this particular assignment, your final assignment, is going to be due on the 29th. That is going to be by 11:59. You'll submit it to the Dropbox. Now, the last thing I wanted to mention to you regarding, well, two final things. The last day to submit any late assignments to me is by the 23rd at 5 o'clock. That is this coming Friday. Yes, so this next Friday. I have to have every assignment that has been late has to be to me by then in order for you to receive any credit. If it is not to me by 5 o'clock next Friday, it is, if it's a 0 in the gradebook, it remains a 0 if I don't have it by then. because I have to start shutting down parts of your grade to kind of give you a good sense of where you are in the class. And then the last thing, of course, is the extra credit opportunity number 2. That is going to involve, let me go back to content. You're looking at queer theory, which is a theory you weren't actually required to work with in the class, but it was one that was mentioned. You can, of course, follow the instructions here and, feel free to utilize that. Utilize this assignment if you would like. It will count up to 5 points on the research and the revised and research essay grade. So that final essay, it can give you up to 5 points, which is good because that is half a letter grade. So let me bring the camera back to me. Okay, so this essay has a lot of moving parts, has a lot of things to consider. Couple of things to keep in mind. Use the discussion board, use the check-in as legitimate places for you to demonstrate that you're working. Of course, that's the big part of it because it is graded, but also use it as a place to work through things, think through ideas, suggest something, mention something. The assignments for this particular unit, I'm going to be grading, I am going to be giving you feedback, but do keep in mind, as long as you do what the assignment calls for, you'll get a good grade. I can almost assure you that. But if you have a question about something with this assignment, the discussion board and the check-in can be good places for you to flesh out ideas and think about things. And if not everything connects fully, that's what I'm here for. And of course, on the discussion board, that's what your classmates are here for, to respond to things and give you some of that purposeful feedback. Also, keep in mind, I know that this assignment is a lot and it has a lot of those moving parts. If you have specific questions and you don't want to necessarily throw things into your assignments, into the discussion board or the check-in, and you want to ask me those individually, email me. I have been really good all semester about getting back to you all, typically within less than 24 hours or 48 hours. That's pretty much always less than 48. This is the time to really ask questions because I am, of course, happy to help. I want you all to do well on this assignment. And all of you have improved throughout this class. I have seen improvement to varying degrees for all of you. This is an opportunity for you to really put everything you have into this assignment and really demonstrate what you've learned to yourself and also to me. I know this semester has been a lot. We are getting close to the end. If you need something, please let me know. Again, continue doing great work you're doing. I am actually going to be working on your Unit 4 essays today. My plan is to get about half of them graded today and then work on the other half throughout the next day or two. So do be on the lookout for that feedback. What I'm doing for the Unit 4 is I'm going to go through and give you a comment roughly per paragraph, and then I'm going to give you video feedback, and that's going to be it. And keep in mind too, for the final paper, the very final one, you will of course submit it to the Dropbox. It will be run through Turnitin. I will not be commenting on that one. I will simply be reading it and grading it, but I'll go into more detail about that later on in another video. I have gone 13 minutes now, so I'm going to stop talking. If you have any questions or need anything from me, please let me know. Take care of yourselves. Make sure you're getting rest. Make sure you're doing things occasionally for you so that you can decompress a little bit. This is a stressful time of the semester, but I know you all can do it, and I look forward to seeing great work from you. Thanks.